Mr. and Mrs. Steelers fan and all the ships at sea, welcome to the BTSC. That's Behind the Steel Curtain and the family of podcasts. My name is Bryan Anthony Davis. You can call me Mr. 2 a.m. for some sordid reasons and some wholesome reasons, but this is Tales from 2 a.m. And this is not exactly a sordid show, but we'll get a little sordid today for anybody that was looking for that in the title, if you know the origin of Mr. 2 a.m. But you know what? It's really not about that. It's about celebrating your Steelers fandom and getting ready for the new season, but looking back on the great times of yesteryear and how you incorporated the Pittsburgh Steelers in your life. And when everybody comes in the live chat, can't wait to hear from them as well. So what's goody, my friends? So glad to see you. And this is the final Mr. 2 a.m. Tales from 2 a.m. of the 2020 season, because 2020 season's getting ready to start. So what do we got to do? We got to go on hiatus. So a programming note, things are going to change slightly because of the new fall season. You know, in television, they have the new fall season. We're going to have our new fall season at BTSC. You're going to have morning, noon, and night. So much content. So it's going to be a lot of fun for all of us as we get into the season. We're going to have everything up to date, all kinds of news, all kinds of notes, breaking news, commentary, everything that you're used to on BTSC. You're going to have it on the podcast platform as well. We are still going to have our YouTube shows, but we are going to have plenty of AM shows. We're going to have plenty of PM shows as well. And those YouTube shows coming in at noon, as well as some other content. What are some of the new shows, you ask? Well, we're going to move Live Mike to Tuesday morning. That's going to join our family of podcasts in the morning platform. We're going to have injury reports Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. On Tuesday, Jeff Hartman's going to wrap up the Mike Tomlin press conference with a Tuesday evening show. We're going to have so much fun here. We're going to have so much news, so many notes. But next week, starting next week, instead of Tales from 2 a.m., we're going to have Steelers Pregame. That's going to debut sometime around Saturday night before the game, about 24 hours or 18 hours before the game, to get you started for the Pittsburgh Steelers game that week. So it's going to be, like I said, it's going to be all Steelers all the time, and we're glad to have you here. As I'm looking through the live chat, some good friends coming in. Snowman's here, Mr. Robin Masters of BTSC. Dave Shipley says, good morning. Dave, my man, how are you? A new member, Mark Davison. You saw him last week on the show. It's midnight for him right now in Australia. Member of Steelers Nation Australia. Check out that on Facebook. It's really good. Also, Mark is now the co-host with Matty Peverell of Touchdown Under, and you saw them talking about it last week. Their second show debuted yesterday morning on the podcast platform. So go ahead and check that out, download it. And remember, if you're going to download it, you're going to check out us on the platform. Give us a 5-star rating if we deserve it. AJC's in the house. Kathy Forrid, Kathy from Kansas, my man, Ryan O'Toole. Ryan missed the show last night because of AEW wrestling. Ryan, good move. It's fine. You can check it out on the podcast platform. You don't have to see it live. That's no problem. You can get all your Steeler news, and you could see John Moxley defeat MJF. I believe that's his name, as what happened. Spoiler if somebody missed it. I didn't watch it, but I do want to check it out. I'm a wrestling guy, so that's good. Derek Griggs is in the house. My man, Reggie Rivers. Haven't seen Reginald in a while. So great to see all of you in here. We're going to have some fun today. We're going to talk about our Steeler fandom since this is the last Tales from 2 a.m. But I'm not going away. We're just shifting. We're in season form. We're getting ready. 2020 Pittsburgh Steelers. You heard it here. I think it is going to be awesome. And here's the best part about everything. I'm talking fast. I'm talking excited. This is natural. The only thing in my mouth so far today, toothpaste. That's it. No coffee. I am so jazzed because of the Pittsburgh Steelers. I am so feeling great about the Pittsburgh Steelers this year. Cut down day was yesterday. We're going to have some of those guys back on the practice squad today. Make sure you check out BTSC for a live show on that. We're going to jump in. Hey, we had 215 people in the live chat for Dave Schofield and myself yesterday for the cut down special. So check us out. We've got you all the time. Now, what are we going to talk about today? I'm calling you out here. It's 10 a.m. here where I am. 10 a.m. That's true. It's here. I know it's 12 a.m. in Australia. It's maybe, what is it, Kathy, where you're at? 9 a.m. maybe? I think you're Mountain Time Zone or Central. I'm not sure. But wherever you are, Mark Holbrook in the house. Hey, Mark, Steelers Nation, Idaho. I love it. Idaho in the house. So here's the deal. Steelers happy hour. That's what we're doing. It's Steelers happy hour. I want you all to sidle up to the bar with me, okay? Sidle up. We're talking Steelers. We're going to have wholesome Steelers stories. I'm going to have a sordid Steelers story. I got to give you a 2 a.m. story, right? It's not that sordid, but yeah, it's sordid. So, you don't have to shoo the wife and kids away or the husband and kids away. You don't have to do that. We're just going to have some fun with some stuff. So with that being said, I had to give you one of those. With that being said, my catchphrase that I'm bringing back, I put it away for a little while. Reggie, how many players are going to be inactive during game day? That's going to be decided by, you can have an extra offensive lineman during game day. So really not sure, maybe around 7 or 8. Dave Schofield's the guy you ask for that. He's the numbers guy, a little more than me. I'm your pop culture memory Steelers guy. So that's kind of what I like. Jeffrey Benedict is having a new show along with Michael Beck. If you enjoyed Beck in Black, guess what? It's going to be Know Your Enemy. And you know what? I just said, Reggie, I just said that the guy to talk to about that stats and stuff, game day, Dave Schofield, Jeffrey Benedict's your guy too. He's got a sore throat today. Jeff, hope you're feeling better, buddy. But check out Know Your Enemy on Wednesday nights on YouTube. We'll have it Thursday on the podcast platform. What's Know Your Enemy? Is it the Green Day song? Gotta know your enemy. I know your enemy. Gotta know your enemy. Oh, wait, oh, wait, oh, wait. Okay. So Know Your Enemy. It's going to be about the Giants this week. They might have a correspondent. If not, Jeffrey knows all about the New York Giants. He's going to tell you all about it, along with Michael Beck. Then the week after that, I already have somebody from Mile High Report lined up for the second week to go ahead and talk about Broncos with Mike and Jeff. So that's going to be really excited. Or Michael and Jeffrey. Let's do that. So here you go. Let's talk about some fun Steeler stories here. A lot of them for me, sure, there's some 2 a.m. stuff in there. A lot of them surround family. They surround friends. And they surround some people that maybe I don't want to be around. And I've got a little bit about that today. So let's go ahead and get this done and have some fun. Then I want to hear some cool stories from you towards the end when we get into the live chat more. So this first one is called Stuck on the Roof. Now, we're going back to 2000, and the Steelers wasn't the best season for the Steelers. It started off pretty bad with that shutout loss. I think it was like 15-0 to the Baltimore Ravens, and that's the year the Ravens, the Ratbirds, they won the whole thing. But they were making a surge. That was the Kent Graham and Cordell Stewart year. They're making a surge. This is around Thanksgiving, and they're playing the Cincinnati Bengals. And I'm married at the time. Married to my first wife. And she was at work. She worked maybe about 5-10 minutes down the road. She worked at a nursing home. So she did like the 5 a.m. to 3 shift or 6 a.m. to 3 shift, something like that. And she was one of those people that she suffered when we had the time change. And we have a lot of people that we deal with depression, and by no means am I making fun of this. This is actually a pretty nice story because she suffered from when the time changed and it got dark earlier, she would fall into a little bit of a depression. So she would want to be around me more, but she was at work, and I decided I was going to go up. right before the Steeler game. I had it on, but I decided I was going to go head up on the roof and put some Christmas lights up. And had a small house, so it wasn't going to take me long. But where we were situated, the neighbors really couldn't see us that well. So I'm up there, putting the lights on, this is about 20 minutes before the game's going to start. Didn't have a cell phone back then. This is the year 2000. I'm up there. And what happens? The ladder falls. So I'm stuck on the roof. And not only did the ladder fall, but the lights fell too. So I'm up there just by myself. I'm doing whatever I can. Am I going to jump? I'm thinking, I'm 28 years old at the time. And I'm one of those guys that I'm thinking, all right, if I run and jump, I could grab onto that tree and slide down. And then I'm like, yeah, let's think better of that. I mean, I did so many things. Should I hang? And the shingles on the roof, they hurt. Because I had a jacket on, but sliding up and I was nicking myself all up. And so what I decided to do, Bryan Anthony Griswold, thank you, Ryan O'Toole. That's funny. So I figured I would just sit there. But the window, it wasn't a very cold fall day, so I had the window open of the house. And so I'm trying to lean over and hold on to the gutter to see if I could possibly see the TV and hear it. And here I am hanging down and I'm trying, and I couldn't for anything. So I was up there probably about an hour or so, maybe a little bit more, maybe about 90 minutes. I'm up there by myself trying to imagine what the Steelers are doing in this must-win game. And her car pulls in. And I'm like, you are not due home from work for a couple hours. What's up? She said, well, I had a break and I missed you. So I just wanted to come see you. I'm like, well, what are you doing up there? I'm like, thank goodness the ladder dropped. Can you help me down? So she helped me down and we went in, and she was having a bad day. And she said, hey, can we just sit here and talk a while? And Steelers are on in the background. And one of the first times in my life, I just said, you know what? Turn the TV off. And I just went ahead and talked to her, and then she went back to work. I caught the rest of the game afterwards. And that was more important to me at the time. It did end up in a divorce. Something she regrets now, with some other stuff, but that's neither here nor there. But it's one of those things that kind of thought that was a little bit more important than the Steelers, and the fact that I'm hanging down, trying to peek in the window to catch them, which it didn't work, but it's kind of what I did. But it was better to just sit and talk to her than the Steelers at that time. Now, I thought that was the priority. I had another time, and this is a little more of a sordid story. I'm in a game. Gosh, man, was I about 23, 24 years old? And I was dating this girl at the time. I wasn't dating her very long. And she's watching the game, and I believe the Steelers were playing the 49ers. And she was a 49ers fan. And she wasn't, we were, joking back and forth about it, but she wasn't, there were other people around too. And she wasn't rubbing in on me, but she was, needling me, because I think the Steelers were losing to the 49ers, if I'm not mistaken. I think this was one of those things that was it opening weekend back in the Steve Young days. Oh, Snowman says, sorry about your divorce, Pat. Hey, no problem, because that's the divorce and we're very cordial. That is the divorce when we didn't have children together. Thank goodness. But that's the divorce that led to my very happy second marriage and my children, and something that I'm very blessed for. But I will always have love for that woman as well, because it's all about the people, and why you love somebody in the first place. So, thank you for that sentiment, Snowman. But that's what's I mean, sometimes we go through some stuff that we don't know something great's around the corner. And I am so blessed to have something very great right now. But I don't regret that marriage as well. It's shaped me as a human being. So back to this story. She's so it's like the third quarter. And I feel this hand on my leg. And then she just whispers to me and she said, let's forget about the Steelers. Let's go and have our own game. And I'm like, no. I'm a red-blooded American male. Gosh, like I said, I was 23, 24 at the time, and I looked at her and I said, "No, I'm good. Let's watch the game. I'll take a rain check." She goes, "No, there's no rain check." I'm like, "Sorry." That relationship didn't last too long. But at that time, I wanted to watch the Steelers. And I think they did lose, but I can't remember. Now, you know what? They might have won that game. No, gosh, my memory's fading. But just my priorities in the first story were family. In that story, it was the Steelers because I didn't want to sneak away and do that at that time. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but I was watching the game. What are you going to do? Back to family a little bit, and it's always going to be something for me that, and we'll talk about this a little bit later, but family is most important to me. I know, like it is with a lot of you. And one of the most important things to me is about family is sharing the Steelers. And we've talked about that before in the show a couple weeks back, and sharing what we love with everybody else. Now, I'll do a lot of stuff for my family that doesn't involve the Steelers as well, and that's fun. That's where it's at for me. A big part of my family are my dogs. I have 3 dachshunds, and I know you hear them a lot on this show. You'll hear them barking because they're mouthy. They're like their dad. They're mouthy. So I've got 3 little dachshunds. I had in my life, I've had 5. And so 4TL is making me laugh. Bad. I had to make her sacrifice to do we both at the same time once. That's awesome. 4TL, I love you, man. Kevin Johnston's in the house too. Good to see you. So my dogs are very special to me, and I got my first 2 dachshunds. I've always wanted to have dachshunds, my little wiener dogs, and I got them right before Jennifer, my wife now, and my forever wife, let's call her that. We got Heinz and Polly. She let me name the dogs. We got them right before, maybe about a year before we got married, and I'm naming these dogs. The boy, we had a boy and a girl. Boy's going to be Heinz Ward Davis. The girl's going to be Palomalu Davis. And then I let my wife give Palomalu her middle name, and it was Doodle. So she was Polly Doodle Davis. You can't call Palomalu Doodle, but I let her have something. So it was Polly Doodle. That was her nickname. I loved these dogs. Polly especially was the one that was a daddy's girl. And my 2 dachshunds now, and I've lost both Heinz and Polly in the last couple years. Right before not playoff. One was the Patriots AFC Championship game. The weekend I lost Polly, and almost 2 years of the day, right in the middle of the playoffs, it was Heinz too, but the Steelers weren't in it. These dogs watched the games with me all the time. And the reason they watched the games with me is they were puppies, and we were watching the Chiefs and the Steelers. It was like week 6 or 7 in 2006. Cree's in the house. Haven't heard from Cree in a while. Good to see you, my man. So it was 2006. I think it was about week 6. And that was the game where Polamalu had an interception and they pulled him down by his hair. But the Steelers trounced the Chiefs that day. They absolutely trounced them. And I think they scored 45 that day. So there was a lot of touchdowns for the Steelers. And so the first touchdown, I went, touchdown Steelers! And I ran, I got the dogs a treat. So, and next touchdown, I'm like, touchdown Steelers! And I gave them a treat. So after that, so the next one, they weren't even in the room. Jenny in the back room. And I go, touchdown Steelers! Boom, they come tearing out like crazy looking for a treat. So for years, for about 10 years, every time they heard touchdown Steelers, they were coming. They knew it. And it had to be, if I didn't have it there, my friends at Steeler Central that would gather with me at Steeler Central, they'd be like, up, go get the dog something. So they'd actually pause it while I'd run up. If I didn't have anything, grab it, because the dogs would go crazy. And they loved it. It was touchdown Steelers, and they were there. Yeah, so when I lost Polly, gosh, it killed me. And because she was always there for everything. I told you the story about a couple of weeks back when I'm doing the family show, talking about when the Steelers were losing, and my wife came downstairs and told me that we were going to have a child. And the only person, there was nobody in the room with me but Polly. Polly was laying right next to me watching the Steelers get trounced by the Ravens. And here comes Jenny to tell me that great news. And she's snuggled up beside me. And so for that AFC Championship game that she was gone for, she passed away 2 days earlier. Steelers did lose that game, but I had the picture of her right next to me. And I like to bring that out during game days. I got to get one for Hines too, to have them there too, because they were my Steeler buddies and love them. Funny story about Polly. Hey, she was next to me all the time. And so you remember, I believe it was 2013, Steelers in the snow. Steelers in the snow against the Miami. If you remember that day, the Dolphins weren't really struggling. That's bad. Just come back from injury. They weren't. I mean, they missed the playoffs. It was an 8-8 year. They could have got in at the end, but this was a really important game, and they should have. They were heavily favored against the Dolphins, and next thing you know, they're losing. Charles Clay ripped them up that day, actually, but they're losing late in the game. So they decide, no time left. Let's do the lateral play. They did like 5 laterals. Next thing you know, Antonio Brown is streaking down the sidelines. And I'm on my feet to begin with, because we always get on our feet when it's like the end of the game and they're trying to come back. Or when it's a big third down and it's crucial, we're on our feet. So I remember I'm right in front of my TV, and I had laminate flooring. And I remember Antonio Brown is streaking down the sidelines. I'm like, oh my gosh, he's going to score. So I hop down to my knees and I'm going, go, go, go. But as I'm going, go, Polly follows me. So she's right next to me. As I'm going to go, I have my hand and I'm slamming the floor. I'm like, go, 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 go. And I'm like, I thought he was getting in, and I didn't realize he stepped out. But as I go, the final go, my hand's on the floor, and I'm like, my gosh, this floor is hot. This floor is so hot. It's like, is the house on fire? What's going on? I scared Polly so bad that she peed. And here I am. My hand is in a pool of hot pee, and I don't even know it. I just, the dumbest story ever. But I'll never forget that. But next week, she was right next to me. I didn't mean to scare the poor little dog, but I thought my house was on fire. Gosh, that's absolutely ridiculous. You know what? I have some great stories, and we're going to take a break. We're going to come back right after this. If you're on YouTube, you stick around. And if you're on our podcast platform, remember, go ahead and download show number 2. I want to see you there because there's some really fun stories coming next. So you got to come back for this next one, all right? Tales from 2 a.m. is coming up next. Give me a sec. And we are back. Welcome back to part 2 of Tales from 2 a.m. I am Mr. 2 a.m. My name is Bryan Anthony Davis, your good friend Bad. I'm so glad to see you. I have so many fans here. Not fans. Gosh, I don't have fans. I'm a regular dude that loves the Steelers, that has a platform. I've got so many friends here in the live chat, and I'm so glad you're here with me. Look, I can't do these shows without you people. You guys are what inspire me to have fun and share my Steeler fanhood. So I want you to share the Steeler fanhood as well, because this is what I love. This is definitely what I love. Nobody's a stranger to me wearing black and gold. So when I see someone wearing black and gold, I immediately know that I have somebody that I can talk to. So I love it. Jeffrey Benedict told me my story was rough. Ba-dum-bum, ba-dum-bum. Ba-dum-bum. The story about Polly, it was rough. I love it. So let's talk more. You know, I told you stories about getting stuck on the roof. Told you stories about my dogs. I'm going to tell you one about getting punched in the face during a Steeler game. And it was the greatest punch in the face that I've ever had in my life. You know, when you're celebrating, sometimes things go awry. So let's go back to 2009. And what we're looking at here, it's the AFC Championship game. And not only is it the AFC Championship game, it is the Baltimore Ratbirds. Yeah, the Ravens in Pittsburgh for this game. And I got to tell you, I couldn't wait. I live in Maryland. Everybody knows I live in Maryland. And there's a huge Steeler presence here. There really is. But Baltimore's funny because they're really good baseball fans. They support the Orioles really well. I kind of feel with the Ravens, something about the Ravens. They're not as fair to the Ravens as you would think. They are diehard when they're doing well. They're off the bandwagon when they're not. Last year before the season, Lamar Jackson was garbage to Baltimore Ravens fans. Everybody talked about him as being garbage. Now he is the greatest player ever. I wish they would have respected Lamar Jackson more before this season. The guy was coming off of a great season and had a horrible playoff game. He was a rookie and had a horrible playoff game, and they were all over this guy. All right. So I just kind of feel that's how Baltimore Ravens fans are. And Baltimore Ravens fans give me a whole lot of heck. You know, I have good friends that are Baltimore Ravens fans, and they're good fans. They're really good fans. Not everybody. I'm not saying all of them, but there's some that there are a lot that are like this. But there's some really good fans out there and some really good diehards. So let me not pigeonhole them all. But we used to have a running bet, and the bet was the loser of the Steelers-Ravens game had to drive around with a Ravens or a Steelers magnet on the back of their car, and it could not be removed for anything. You had to do it for 2 weeks. So I've rode around with a giant Ratbirds on the back of my car for a couple times, and then we quit the bet. But I've had jersey bets where I've had to wear a Ravens jersey in public. I've had to wear a Capitals jersey too. that was pretty rough. But we don't make those bets anymore. But I gladly do it. Everyone knows who I am in my fandom, and they see me wearing it. They know I lost the bet, so that's no problem. But it's really fun to watch them wearing that Steelers jersey when you're running around on their car or magnet on their car. It's really a lot of fun. But back to this AFC Championship game. We all know the play. Flacco goes back to pass. Troy Polamalu picks it off and streaks towards the end zone. And you knew when that happened, you knew that was the game. It wasn't the game, but you knew it deep down. You know my rule. You don't celebrate until there's zeros on the clock. But that was a huge celebration. Now, you're allowed to celebrate the play. You just can't claim victory until there's zeros on the clock. So there's about 4 or 5 of us in Steeler Central. A lot of people were upstairs watching the game. But we were downstairs, and it was a buddy named Doug, my good friend Mike, my good friend Darren, Mike's son, Chris was there. And, and I don't drink very often. I mean, some of these crazy stories, you think, man, Bad must have been really drunk. I hardly drink at all. I just don't have the stomach for it. I'd rather be the DD. But I'm also one of those guys that people think I'm drinking because I just act a fool because I enjoy life. But I wasn't drinking at all. We're in my basement in Steeler Central, and he scores, and we jump up, and it looked like a pitching mound after the last out of the World Series. It really did. That's what I imagined it looked like. And we all jumped up. We're hugging each other. We're just screaming, going crazy. And no one's mad at me, I know, but somebody in their exuberance cracked me right in the eye. Boom. Knocked me to the ground. And I know it was, I know someone always, when I tell this story, somebody always tells the story, throws in, well, who'd you make, Matt? No, it wasn't, but I got cracked and it knocked me to the ground. And I got up and I'm like, oh, and I'm like, nuts to that. I jumped back in. We're like, woo! I mean, it was exhilaration. And when you're celebrating the fact that your team's going back to the Super Bowl, you feel good. And you're like, I don't care that I just got punched in the face. Now, if you're at a game with me, don't punch me in the face on purpose. I'm going to get upset. But I go upstairs and I'm like, yeah, I just got punched in the face. Because my wife's like, what happened to your eye? I'm like, yeah, I just got cracked. And she said, who? Oh my God, who hit you? What did you do? I'm like, I didn't do anything. We're celebrating. The Steelers are going to go to the Super Bowl. She's like, man. So a lot of the times, and this is not a segregated system, but a lot of times Jenny just loves Steeler Sunday because we do a Super Bowl party basically every week for a noon game. So what really happens is we go there. She goes upstairs. I have a lot of the guys downstairs, a lot of women downstairs too, but a lot of the family, the kids will stay upstairs. We let them come downstairs, but most of the time they stay downstairs. They stay upstairs, the kids do. And the wives are encouraged to come down, but most of the time they stick around and they have just as much fun upstairs with the wine and the food, and it's great. So, but one time they were playing the Raiders. This was 2013. They were off to a really bad start. And what happens? Somebody breaks a glass, and I come up to get my food, and like my friends made this amazing sandwich. Gosh, I can't remember what's the name of the chipped ham that's very big from Pittsburgh. So they made a ham barbecue with, gosh, I mean, it's escaping my head. It's the very famous chipped ham. You can still I can get it here in Maryland at Walmart, actually. but it had the special chipped ham, and it was like 2 great ham barbecue sandwiches, and I was all excited. And she's like, Bryan, I've got glass. Isley's. Thank you, James Caldwell. Isley's. James was just saying, man, I'm late to the dance. James, you can check this back on download it on the podcast platform. But yes, Isley's. Dave Shipley's in there on that too. And Kathy says they have great ice cream. I didn't know that. So my buddy Mike, he makes this ham barbecue that is really to die for. And I was never a ham barbecue fan, but this is just absolutely incredible. So I had these sandwiches, and I had the sandwiches in my hand, and my wife's like, I think I've got glass in my foot. And it was the smallest sliver in the world because I couldn't find it. And I had paused the game, and I know all these people are downstairs waiting on me to get my sandwich so they can watch the game. And I'm looking at her foot, and I don't want to rub it in, but I'm looking for this glass on her foot, and I can't find it anywhere. As I raise my hand when I'm talking about the foot, but I'm just trying to simulate the foot. So can't find it anywhere. And I'm like, honey, I don't see anything at all. She's like, it's in there. And so I grabbed tweezers, and I'm looking. She goes, it's right there. There's nothing. I can't find it for anything. I'm like, I'm sorry, I can't find it. Well, I'll see you. I'm going downstairs. She's like, where are you going? I'm like, my sandwiches are not. I got my sandwiches. I got to go put the game back on. And you know what? I pride myself on being a very good husband, a very attentive husband. Man, I tell you what, I should have got like a huge FBI light and a magnifying glass and looked for it. They razz me till this day about glass in the foot. I will, like, every time I go upstairs, they're like, getting your sandwich? They're like, if we have an injury, are you going to just ignore us? Like, that's what, not my wife. My wife doesn't say it, but everyone else does. She gives me guff about that too. But yeah, I'm not perfect, but I should have had the priorities that day. You know, I have priorities to the Steelers in other ways too. So Steelers are finally in the Super Bowl against the Cowboys in 1995. Well, 96, but 95 season. And I'm living in West Virginia at the time. I lived in West Virginia for 9 years of my life. I went out there to be in radio, and I ended up leaving after 9 years. But it was, I had a really good friend that was a huge Cowboys fan. And I was at his house 2 weeks before watching the AFC Championship game. That's when they poured champagne over my head and got it all in my eyes. And it was the best feeling ever because the Steelers had just won the AFC Championship game finally. They're going back to the Super Bowl, and that's awesome. So he's like, and Jimmy, my man Jimmy was so much of a Dallas Cowboys fan that he named his son Dallas Landry. Landry was his middle name. This is how much he loved the Steelers. You got to respect that. You know, you don't have to like the Cowboys, but you got to respect the guy. Really loved the Cowboys. Great kid too. Dallas is a great kid. So if you're ever in Elkins, West Virginia, check out Jimbo's place. Just opened a great sports bar. Fantastic place to go. I can imagine. I got to get back there and check it out. Jimmy, cheers to you. So Jimmy is a fantastic chef too, man. The guy could cook like no tomorrow. He's like, for the Super Bowl, I know it's the Cowboys and Steelers, and he always respected the Steelers too. We were really cool going back and forth with Cowboys and Steelers. So we had a mutual respect for each other. He's like, having a huge party. Then I get invited to another party. He goes, the food's going to be off the hook. He's naming the menu, and I'm like, oh. And I wasn't making a lot of money at the time, and that was the meal of dreams for me. And then I get invited to this other party. It was a huge party too. And I'm like, guys, Steelers are in the Super Bowl. I'm going to be at my apartment by myself. My parents came up, but they were going back in time for the game. I'm going to watch the game by myself. And they're like, really? Why would you do that? I'm like, because this is almost a like going to church for me. This is Christmas Eve mass, watching the Steelers in the Super Bowl, and I don't want any distractions. I'm just going to enjoy it. And I watched that game, probably one of the very few games, huge games that I've watched by myself. And it was special. I mean, I took phone calls, but I watched that game and I loved it. And I have, even though they lost, I have great memories of that game because it was just a special time and a special feeling. And I passed up a lot of food, and my parents, like I said, they came down that weekend and they brought this bread from Johnstown. It was like with sunflower seeds that they got a Giant Eagle actually. And it was fresh, and they went to the Italian deli, Canzati's. I'm going to give them a plug. Canzati's, they had a lot of DeLello's stuff, if you know. They were just like DeLello's, but they were in Johnstown. They imported a lot of stuff from DeLello's too. And they brought me this mushroom salad, and I had the most incredible sandwiches by myself. And it wasn't the amazing food that I was going to have everywhere else, but I had me, the Steelers, and my thoughts, and it was spectacular. So I had priorities to the Steelers that day. But I love watching the game with my friends. When I was in West Virginia, it ended up that I would go to my buddy Tommy Regan's house, hang out with my other buddy Gene Cowgill and a lot of other guys, and we would watch the Steelers every week. They were the guys that demanded, when I talked about the Superstition show, they demanded my Steeler camo pants, and we had a special ceremony and lit them on fire in halftime against the Buccaneers game in 2002, and it broke my 6-game losing streak. I had a personal 6-game losing streak of watching it. So, it was one of those things that I could always count on those Steeler guys, and especially because it was right at the time of my separation and my divorce, and man, I had the Steelers in that gang. And I told you a couple weeks back that when Tom was out of town, Tom would go to the Steeler game sometimes, and he wouldn't tell us, but his house was open, and we all would go gather. He'd have a note, "Not here, watch the game. Don't dare leave." And that was the original Steeler Central. So when I opened Steeler Central in Johnstown, when I opened it, it's just my basement. But when I have that, I have all these Western Pennsylvania fans, all these Steeler fans, and they show up. If you're a fan of another team, you're welcome. But just don't. You're allowed in Steeler Central. You just don't pee on the couch. There's respect. So what we would do is we would gather all those people together, all those Steeler fans together, and I started doing it here. And that was had a lot to do with the punch in the face that I got. Some of the best friends that I'll ever have, Darren and Mike, that are watching the games with me now. I mean, that's really special to me. And having their families there. And if you come to my house and you're not wearing a Steeler jersey, guess what? I have one for you. And they put it on. And it's fun. I have one buddy, Jamie Taylor, one of my good buddies. He is a Washington football team fan. He's a diehard, and he loves Washington, but he comes to Steeler Central all the time, and he roots for the Steelers for me. So he broke his ankle same time that Pouncey broke his ankle. So I gave him my Pouncey jersey, and he still has it. So when he comes over, he wears Pouncey. And we always joked, hey, you got to have Pouncey because it's, you broke his ankle, he broke his ankle. So that's really funny. So it's, when you're talking about friends and family, it's really special to have them all together. One of my best friends in the world for almost 40 years now, 38 years, my buddy Dave, he works in Los Angeles. Actually, he works for the show Survivor. He is one of the supervising editors there, and he's he's a diehard Steeler fan too. So when the Steelers went to San Diego to play back in 2005, we decided to go to the game together, and it was just awesome. It was Monday Night Football. And the cool thing about that game was Schwarzenegger was the governor at the time, so he was in the stadium. And, I didn't see him, but this was their first Monday Night Football game in 9 years. They were supposed to have one the year before, but because there was mudslides and they had to move the game. So there was Monday Night Football, and this woman comes out right before the game, and ABC used to do the "Are you ready for some football?" bit with Hank Williams Jr., Steeler fan, by the way, Hank Williams. So what they would do is they would have like an actor, or they would have some kind of vignette. There was that famous one in 2004, a year before, with Terrell Owens and I think it was Nicolette Sheridan and a towel or something. And then they would have this vignette, and someone would go, "Are you ready for some football?" And then Hank Williams would come on, and it would be hoopla. And then you'd go to the stadium, and there would be fireworks, and it was pretty amazing. So what they would do, they wanted to, San Diego has a big military presence. So they brought out this, I don't know whether he was an admiral or, please, if I'm screwing up my military jargon, I apologize. But he comes out, I don't know whether he was a drill sergeant, I think that's Army. But they told us what to do. And so this young lady, seemed like the nicest young lady, comes out, and she's a PR director, and she's like, "Yay, Charger fans, are you ready for Monday Night Football? We're gonna have Admiral or Captain or what have you, so and so, and he's going to shout you orders, and then he's gonna say, 'Are you ready?' and you go crazy and wave your towels." And towels, they weren't towels. They were washcloths that they gave us, sponsored by Pepsi. Little white. When you wave white, that means surrender. So they gave us these little white towels that was from Pepsi. And it said 100% chance of lightning. And they're these Chargers towels. And so what they did, they wanted us to wave these towels. And I think it was 75% Steeler fans there and I was on the 50-yard line. We got good tickets. And so when she said that, wave your towels, the terrible towels came out en masse. And all you heard was, "Here we go, Steelers, here we go." Boom, boom. And the place went nuts. And that's all. It drowned this poor girl just trying to do her job out. Drowned her out. And she's like, "Come on, guys. We're in San Diego." And the chant got louder. Rah! And then so she just stopped. She didn't know what to do. I felt so bad for this girl. The Steeler fans just ran her off. And so I actually watched this on YouTube not too long ago. And it came off without a hitch. She was like, he would just come out and go, "Are you ready?" And he was really cool. He did the thing and did the salute, and then the towels went crazy, and they went into the thing, and then you see the whole stadium going crazy, but you hardly see the white towels because all these gold towels going like crazy. It was really fun. So another note to that, I was wearing a hat that I bought outside of a Steeler game, and you could probably find them now, but you couldn't find them back then. But it was from a guy just selling them in the parking lot of Three Rivers. And it was my favorite hat of all time, and kind of got ruined. But it was, it looked like it was cloth, but it was a Steeler helmet, and it had the thing that came around. I looked ridiculous in it. But it had the logo. So it looked like I was wearing a helmet, but it almost looked like I was wearing a leather helmet from the old days, and it fit my head perfect. And it was this cloth hat, and it was great. And I was wearing it, and some guy saw my hat. He goes, "I'll give you $100 for that hat right now." And I'm like, "No, I can't." And ended up going in the wash. I still have it. It went up going in the wash, but now it's got fuzzies all over it that I just can't get off. And so I've retired it. Maybe I'll just try to. I wonder if I could get it dry cleaned. I probably not, but maybe I can get it fixed. But anyways, it's my favorite hat, and they sell stuff like that now, but it's never going to be the same as this hat, because I had this hat was about 11 years old at the time. But anyways, so we're there, and like I said, Monday Night Football, there's a lot of hoopla. So we go, and I'm probably I was a lot thinner at that time than I am now. I've gained weight since. I'm glad to say I'm 40 pounds down from a year and a half ago, so I'm doing much better. But I was in a lot better shape then. So I was wearing my Antoine Randall L white jersey, and same often I wearing shorts at a football game. So I get excited right at the beginning of the game. I know the cameras are on us, and I just, for some stupid reason, I decided, okay, I ripped my shirt off, and I'm dancing. I still had a belly on me, but I was a lot thinner. And I did a dance that we always joke. I call it the San Diego belly shuffle. You take one hand, you put them on your belly, and you rub like this. And you're dancing. So I'm dancing, and then security, shirt on now. I'm like, are you serious? You're not allowed to take your shirt off in San Diego at a game because I'm doing the belly shuffle. Like, maybe I'm going to get on TV. No, I didn't get on TV for that. But there was this woman camera operator that, as we're cheering, and I had eye black on. By the way, I had eye black. I used to always wear eye black to the game like I was playing, and I had that hat on. I had that special hat on. And so I'm wearing my white jersey, and then we're 5 rows up on the 50. Like, we paid crazy amount for these seats, but it was worth it. So she nods at me. She gives me a nod. And so I start cheering. I put my hands up. I go, wah! Like that. Eye black. Wah! So we had the game DVR'd. I had it recorded at home. I go home. I combed through every little bit of that. I'm not on TV. Okay. I mean, I'm not that vain. I don't need to be on TV. So fast forward, Steelers win the BTSC championship game against Denver. I'm there getting ready to go to work, and I'm listening to Mike and Mike. I was watching Mike and Mike because you could watch Mike and Mike on the TV at that time when they had it on ESPN2. And they say, "Hey, Bill Cowher coming on in 10 minutes." I'm like, well, I'm going to wait going to work. So I stuck around watching the game. And right after the Cowher interview, I hear the Monday Night Football theme. And they're showing all these fans. And it says, like, "Are you the greatest fan in America? Would you hawk your wedding Super Bowl tickets? Well, if you're the greatest fan, you can send in a video or whatever, and you can win Super Bowl tickets." And, bum, 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 bum. And they're playing the music, and I'm getting fired up watching this. And all of a sudden, I'm like, oh my. I see this. And I see the top of the 82. I see my eye black. And I'm talking to my buddy Dave that I went to the game with. I'm like, oh my God, Dave. I think I was TV. And so he DVR'd it, and he's going back. He's like, yeah, that's you. And I recorded the rest of the show, and here it came on again. And here, sure enough, that was me. And I made that from that game in San Diego. Just really funny. Okay, I promised you a sordid story. And this is actually So I promised you a 2 a.m. story, and I'm going to give you a 2 a.m. story. It's not as bad as you would think, but it's doesn't paint me in the best light, and that's fine because I'm human. I'm dumb sometimes. I do some crazy stuff, and this is one of those situations where I was mad and decided to stand up for myself. But it surrounds the Steelers a little bit, so I'll tell you about this. So here's my best 2 a.m. story that I can give you right now on a Sunday morning. Then I'll go to church and I'll ask for forgiveness from this. Probably not as bad as you think, but usually I'm always talking about a touching family memory. But here's my seedy one. So I was mired in a little bit of a personal controversy at the time. It was strange because you know me, I get along with everybody. I never have problems. I was living in West Virginia and I was playing Curly, the villain in a West Virginia community theater production of Mice and Men. And I was the bad guy. Curly was, and they told me Curly wears this black glove with like Vaseline on it for some reason. And he's just a really sordid dude. And he's not self-assured, but he thinks he's this ladies' man. He's just a bad guy. And so, one of the reasons I did community theater was because I wanted to hook up with acting chicks, and I'm 25 years old at the time. My character was a complete slime ball, but I thought he needed some more character. So in talking to the director, I'm like, you know what? Curly's the kind of guy that would stuff socks in his Wranglers. So I stuffed socks in my Wranglers. Well, this was really offensive to a lot of the theater regulars. And this woman that played my wife thought I was the sleaziest guy ever because and she complained and they asked me to take the socks out. I'm like, I'm going to take the socks out. Because I'm not, look, I've had no interaction with you as far as, I'm sorry if I offended you because I get along with everybody. So the stage manager that I got along with, she was around my age. She was always a little flirty with me and she tipped me off about it. And she said that, hey, they want to discuss your behavior. So they're having a meeting at 7:00 tonight. They want you to be there. And they were going to have they wanted to have some kind of intervention, weird theater etiquette intervention with me to discuss my horrid behavior. So that was 7 p.m. Problem is, Steelers are playing on the West Coast and they're playing the Cardinals. And this is 97. It's a must win. They've got to win because they're tied with Jacksonville atop the division. And if you listen to the retro show the other day, we talked about the game 2 weeks later against the Patriots that was even more of a must win. So this game goes into overtime and it's past 7:00 and it's a 4:00 game. And I'm like, all right, I'm late. I don't care. And so I get a call. She's like, you're not here yet. They're getting really mad. They want to talk to you. I'm like, I will be there when I'll be there. I'm watching the Steelers. It's almost over. You tell them I'm coming. And so Steelers win. I'm on an emotional high. And the Steelers were a team back then that, Cordell was his first year at quarterback. They were a team that they were coming together. They were somebody that they had a lot of flaws and pitfalls. They were rising above it. They had this cool swagger about them. Greg Lloyd on the team, Chad Brown. No, actually, Chad Brown wasn't on that team, but they had a swagger. So what happened was they win the game, and I'm feeling a little bit of a swagger, and I'm a little mad. So I just go in. The theater is like 5 minutes from my house. I go in, I walk in, they're like, you're late. And then the one guy says to me, he's like, you and your Steelers, you really need to have priorities. And I said, I tell you what, I reached down into my pants and I pulled out some socks. I wouldn't have much. I put them in, just to prove a point because I had this plan what I was going to do. Put out some socks. I spiked them on the ground. And I said, let me tell you something. This is nothing compared to some of the really ridiculous things that I've seen backstage. So if you want me to call each and every one of you out with what I've witnessed, especially in front of some kids, I'll do that. But I tell you what, you want me in this play? I'm better than each and every one of you, and you know it. And this isn't me. I never do that. I say, so you never call me in here during the Steelers game again. And I look at the stage manager and I said, you coming back to my apartment with me? Like a Jerry Maguire moment. Who's with me? And she says, yes. And so she walks out with me and I'm like, that's right. And I leave. It's a ridiculous. I'm not proud of this story. Yeah, I'm kind of proud of this story. But it was one of those things where I'm like, the Steelers inspired me. And I'm like, I'm sticking up for myself. And that's what I'm going to do. So if you wanted a little bit of a sordid 2 a.m. story, they never bothered me again about anything. They actually cast me in more stuff, but they never bugged me again about it. And then I went back and I got a date out of it that night. So made me feel pretty good. So Kathy Ford says you should be proud and loud. And I guess I'm going to be, that was kind of a little coming of age, courtesy of the Steelers, because the Steelers really fired me up for that game. And I was thinking of Bill Cowher all the way in. What did Bill Cowher do here? So that's my sordid 2 a.m. story. But as we get ready to wrap up here, most of these Steelers stories for me are surrounding family and friends. And that's what the Steelers are to me. That's why I've discovered the Steelers. That's why I love the Steelers so much, because it goes back to me being 7, 8 years old and being at my grandmother's house with all these extended family. They're just all in the living room together. There's people on the floor. They're watching the game and they're loving it. And I grew up on Lambert and Bradshaw and Green and Franco and Webby and Blunt and Swan and Stallworth, and the list goes on and on and on. And it kept on extending to Merriweather and Woodson and Lloyd and Green. And it kept on going through Cordell and now Big Ben and Bettis and Hines and everybody. It kept on going. And we always had something together. My dad introduced me to these games. My mom supported it. We were Steelers everywhere. My sister put up spray painted an old Christmas tree, and we put trading cards on it and Steeler helmets. And we did that kind of stuff. And it all goes back to love of family. Now my family, they let me name dogs Hines and Palomalu. My kids, I just found a picture of my son from 7 years ago. He's 13 now. I found a picture of him from 6 years ago today on my time hop. And he was holding a stuffed penguin with an eye patch and a Steeler jersey on it. And what was that? It was my 3 sports that I love. Steelers, Penguins, and Pirates all together. And he's a big smile. And I'm thinking about that. And my kids, they're not huge into Steeler fans, but they wear it all the time and they talk smack to Ravens fans. And we love it together. And when I think about Steelers, I think about family. When I think about the Rooneys, I think about family. When I think about everybody on that team, I think about friends and family. When I think about everybody in the live chat, I think about family. My name's Bryan Anthony Davis. I can't do it without my friends and family. This is my last Tales from 2 a.m. It's going on hiatus. We're going to bring it back. It's coming back. I promise, when the regular season's over. But we've got some football to do. Are you ready for some football? Because 8 days from now, it's happening. I love you, BTSC Nation. You are my family, and the Steelers are my family. And this is going to be a special year. 2020 has been a rough year for a lot of people. It's going to be a special Steelers year. I'm saying it right now. So I will talk to you all tomorrow on Labor Day with the Steelers Q&A, the final Q&A, as well as the hangovers coming back. But have a great holiday weekend, my friends. I love you, and we will talk to you soon. Bad out. This has been Tales from 2 a.m.